This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio, and it is already June, and the year is just flying by, but I don't know how many other parents out there were juggling the virtual and the in-person school this year, but I have to say thank you to all of the teachers and administrators and everybody and the people who work in the lunchroom, the custodians, and everyone who just really dug deep and helped all of us this year. You weren't just helping the kids, you were helping entire communities and parents. And so I want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, because you got me through some very crazy times and teaching and keeping our kids going. So thank you a million times over, and I hope that a lot of you get to have some downtime this summer, especially with it being, it is National Zoo and Aquarium Month here in the United States. So it's very possible that maybe you could go hang out and just walk casually around and not be in any hurry. If you're an educator, go out and about and see something new. And it is also Candy Month. So I hope if you love candy, you can pick up your favorites. And I hope some of your students and the kids in your schools have given you a bit of a treat. You can have that while you're, off this summer. So thank you again to educators. And it's even more fun because in the summer I come up with this really huge to-be read pile. And one of my most fun things I do is I find authors that are new to me. So I have an author that's new to me, and she is fantastic. And so despite working as a professional wordsmith, Halima Khatun is a broadcast journalist, having worked with the BBC and ITV. Since she was a child, she knew that words would be her thing. With a lifelong passion for writing, Halima wrote her first coming-of-age novel, a children's story at the age of 12. It was politely turned down by all major publishing houses. However, providing that writing was indeed her forte, Halima went to study English and journalism and was just one of 4 people in the UK to be granted a BBC scholarship during her postgraduate studies. Along with being a PR consultant, she also blogs on lifestyle, food, travel, and parenthood on halimabobs.com, and the link for that is in the write-up of the show. This is where she shares updates on her novels, and her first being A Secret Diary of Arranged Marriage that came out last year, and the second of the series, The Secret Life of Bengali Bridezilla, was released earlier this year. And you can find her at her website, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Welcome to the show. How are you today, my dear?
Thank you for having me. I'm very well, thank you. I sympathise with the whole children's situation. I have a 3-year-old and 1-year-old, and I had a very fraught morning, but we're okay. We're here, and that's the main thing.
It just kind of got to the point for us. I have 4, and my oldest is about to graduate, and then my 3 are scattered through middle and elementary school. And there were just days it's like, did you just turn it in? It's like I just got to the point of, please tell me you just turned it in, because a 70 is so much better than a 0. I mean, 0 is just going to kill your grade. 70, we can work with that. So it's you start picking your battles a little differently, don't you?
Oh, you really do. And I think it's just patience is a virtue, and we get through it. And I think with this pandemic, I think, like you say, I think we all, especially the teachers, of course, that do this every day with a smile on their face,
right,
all deserve a pat on the back, because it's been interesting.
Yeah.
But,
well, and I also see how. I also see how resilient people can be and how absolutely creative people can be, which is hopeful in a lot of ways, because it's like, okay, well, I can figure this out. I can do this. It's just not going to be what I thought it was going to be. But it's important to see that sometimes we can figure this out. It's not pretty, but we can still do it.
Absolutely. Definitely.
So you submitted a book when you were 12. Tell me about this book you wrote when you were just absolutely loving words and wanting to submit.
Oh, I think I'll have to find it one day and dig it out and maybe publish it myself. So the story, I cringe now, but at the time I thought it was going to be, it was J.K. Rowling level, of course.
Of course.
It was called,
yes.
It was called Jane's World. And
okay.
it was Jane's World. I think the working title was Jane's World, Jane's Gang, and I described it as Stand By Me for girls. So the Stephen King novel that was made into a movie.
Right.
So it's very much a coming of age situation where these girls, they grow up in a rural village, and it's kind of coming to terms with different things. They're preteens and they're growing up, and I managed to pen 60,000 words when most, I guess, regular kids were out playing, which is totally what you should do at that age. And that was the book, and I got my teacher to read it. So I was dead serious about this, and this was the days before. I'm showing my age, but this was the days before everything was at your fingertips online. So obviously there was the internet, but I used to go up to my local library. I grew up in a small town in Wales where I was literally the only Asian, the only brown face in the community, and I'd go up to my local library, and they had the Writers and Artists Yearbook. I don't know if they have that in America. It's sort of a list of all the agents, all the publishers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'd thumb through it. I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought I had a vague plan, and I'd thumb through it and get all these get all these addresses, and they weren't email submissions back then. I'd print out the first 3 chapters, send it over, and then of course you'd get the thank you so much for your submission. We really enjoyed reading it. It's just probably not for us right now. And it's really funny because we had a house move recently, and my mum, they were at my mum's house, and she said, you might just want to keep these now and just look at them. And I've got the rejection letters from the agents. So that was my first foray into publishing at the age of 12. But thankfully, I wasn't too scarred, and I guess I'm living vicariously. I'm kind of fulfilling my dream now, quite a few years later.
Yeah, it's amazing how determined people are when they really have that, like you're saying, the love of the words and the story. And that was you were pretty driven at 12 because a lot of times kids don't have any interest to write that much at all, even when they have to for school. But you, were that motivated that you actually did the research to submit it to people who might read it. That's tremendous.
So, funny story, my name in Arabic, it means 2 things, apparently. It means patience, which I dispute, and it also means dreamer, which I totally agree with. And I think I was always that kid who thought, I don't know, maybe even ideas beyond gestation. I always just thought I'd do something more. I'd have words out that people would read, and I don't think I wasn't like the top of the class for maths. I wasn't great at sports particularly. But words were my thing, as I say, and it's just something when I got pen to paper, probably from the age of 5 or whenever you start in school. I think the teacher said, "Oh, that was quite good," and I carried that with me. So yeah, I was quite driven, and I guess even now I'm the crazy lady that people will talk about because I published my book at 9 months pregnant, my debut, and then I wrote the sequel while I was. I wrote that one when I was pregnant. When I was nursing my daughter, who was a toddler then, so it was nighttime breastfeeds, typing into my iPhone notes and all the rest of it, and then I published it in February, the month before I gave birth to my son. And then while I was sort of nursing him and looking after him, I started drafting the follow-up, The Secret Diary of a Bengali Bridezilla, and that somehow turned into a 99,000 word book, which is slightly insane.
Yeah.
So I guess that there is that side of me, and I'm working on book 3 now. So there is that side of me that I think has maybe a bit too much fire in the belly and just wants to, just get people reading my stories, I guess. Yeah,
it's definitely something that you and I write, and to us it seems the most natural thing to tell a story. Some people just can't, and it's just to us it's just like that. It's the easiest thing ever. But a lot of people just find it fascinating, which is why we have movies and books and TV shows, and because it's all storytelling. And so, the fire in the belly to tell that story, no matter what, it's definitely a gift to have. And I'm so glad you did. And honestly, I would love at some point in your crazy busy schedule, if you went back and looked at that book, I think that you could do something with it, that with the kids and
Maybe
the girls and the coming of age.
Is it middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think about that, and I laugh because I think it's probably it's one of those, Patricia, where I sort of think, where is the manuscript? Because it's probably on a floppy disk, remember them? It's probably on one of somewhere, and I really hope it's not lost. My mum managed to, bless her, find a document, an envelope which had the first few chapters, and she managed to find the rejection letters, which was really, really gratefully received. We haven't found the floppy disk yet, but I do sort of think when my children start sleeping consistently and I'm at a place where writing is not something I'm squeezing in between all of the other things in my life, and I can almost, the dream is to do it full time, of course, when they're a little bit older. I would love to see if that would be a kind of, I guess, is it middle grade, I suppose, that age?
Right. Yeah.
And it would be.
Yeah,
I mean,
in the past 20 years or so, middle grade has just exploded because, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but, I mean, I remember growing up and we did not have this massive amount of a library for middle grade. I mean, you went from elementary school and then you would have all these classics. We had Judy Blume. We had some other lovely writers who I cherished. I mean, I just was begging for more books. But then there was this massive jump, and then we're all supposed to read Steinbeck and, Lord of the Rings and all these other really wonderfully uplifting stories. Yeah. And then about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, then that the middle grade market just exploded with stories like Harry Potter. And so, yeah, I think it would be a beautiful time to write that story.
It's in the 5-year plan. I will add it in, but no, it would be lovely to revisit that. I'm just worried that I'll look back at it and go, that was terrible. What was I thinking?
But it was done. I mean, you can fix a blank. You can fix a story that's written. You can't fix a blank page. So I mean, for you to take that massive jump, I mean, to sit down and say this story is just so important that I have to sit here and write it. I mean, years ago I wanted to write the next James Bond movie because I love James Bond. I had watched it forever, and I read the books and everything. So I was going to be the first woman who was going to write in the series, right? And so I started writing my own thing and was coming up with a story. And my aunt looked at me. She's like, "Why are you trying to write their stuff? Why don't you write your own stuff?" I was like, "Oh, I guess I could." And so I did start writing, and it's somewhere, like you're saying. It's somewhere. I have no idea where it is. And I would cringe, I know, looking back at it. But I did it, though. And that's kind of the drive, because that stuff gets you to the next one.
Maybe we could, here's an idea, we can be each other's accountability buddies and check in, I don't know, annually and go, how are you getting on with yours? How are you getting on with yours? And that will sort of push us to dig out these, dust off these old manuscripts that may or may not be gold.
I would love that.
And then see what we can do.
I would love that.
Them. There you go.
Okay. So everyone's hearing us. They're going to make us be accountable. We have to be accountable to each other. So I say let's do it.
Of course we're... Bro, I forgot. You've made me so relaxed, Patricia. For a second, I forgot. We're broadcasting to tens of thousands of people. I better find it. There we go. No pressure for a weekend.
Well, to be fair, everybody, she does have babies at home. She has little tiny ones, so be nice. If anybody's not nice, you tell me. I will say something.
I will.
It's a process for sure. I'm kind of laughing about you saying you were writing when you were breastfeeding, because I remember reading when I was doing the same, and it was that feeling of you're trying to position the book where you're looking at the baby, but the book's right there, because you're supposed to be looking at the baby when you breastfeed, and so because of the bonding and everything.
And was it a physical book as well, or was it a Kindle or a physical book?
Yeah, something. So but it's amazing. I was talking to someone recently. I said it's amazing how little sleep you can get by on, because you're basically on adrenaline and the whole time. It's when they sleep a little bit longer is when you realize how tired you are, because you get that extra 30 minutes or an hour, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired.
Well, as we're
yeah.
on this, it's crazy. As we're on this chat now, so my husband is thankfully downstairs on standby with the baby monitor. And I know you asked me, we were messaging before this interview about sort of nap times, and I felt like a terrible monk. So I was like, I have no idea, because his schedule is so flexed on when he gets up and what his moods are, etc. He's at that transition stage, and he's asleep as we speak, and I've got half an ear waiting and waiting, and he's doing really well. So I'm like, what is this magic that's going on?
Yes. I tell you, there was years ago. We had two at the time, and I had 2 days of interviews I had to do for a website I was writing for. And so the first day I turned on, I had their like Disney Channel, Playhouse Disney on, and then I had some snacks on the table, and the girls were playing in their room. They were 2 and 4, something like that, and I could hear them, and everything was set up, and whatever. And I walked in. I said, okay, I'm going to be working. I have to do some work in the office. So if you need me, that's where I'll be. But everything, I told them. And I tell you, as soon as I got on my interview, something exploded. Somebody didn't like somebody. It was just, I'm like, seriously? And thankfully, the guy I was talking to worked from home and watched his kids, so he totally understood it. But the next day, I did the same exact thing, but I didn't tell them I was working. Not a peep. Didn't hear them the whole time I was working. Like, everything was the same.
There's
doors wide open.
Yeah,
it's that vibe of, oh, mom's busy. Quick, let's blow something up.
I have the same thing. I think they know. Like, I always joke to my husband about this, but I feel like my children are conspiring to just make me a 1950s housewife, because when I'm in the kitchen, chopping, preparing, cooking, that's fine. My baby will crawl around me and occasionally interrupt, and my daughter is absolutely fine. When it's the laptop, or a sign that mum is working, as you say, there's a need, there's an argument, there's a tantrum, and it's like, yeah, these babies, they are conspiring.
Yeah.
Equally,
it's
though, they're
something
excited
like,
when the book comes out.
Of course. And so let's talk about that. Tell me about your first book and how you came to the idea.
Okay, so my first book, The Secret Diary of an Arranged Marriage, it came about from a kind of a conversation with my husband. So at this point, I'd put Jane's Gang to bed, years ago, and I didn't think writing really. I was a journalist and I worked in PR, so writing was my living, but I didn't really think being an author was a viable career, because I thought you can only go down the traditional published route, and you hear various stories. It's not as lucrative as it was, etc., etc. So it was completely not on my mind at all, and I just had my work and my blog, and that was my writing bug satisfied. And I think I sat with my husband one day, and we'd been married, I think, about probably 2 or 3 years at that stage. And we were talking about it, and we just said, it's really funny. So my husband and I met, and the community I'm from, which is Bengali Muslim. Arranged marriages as a process do exist, but they're not in the way people think. So essentially, in summary, that the arranged marriage process means it's not that you're either forced to marry someone, or it's not the traditional thing where your parents choose someone and you don't have a say. It's kind of now more of a kind of, it's almost more of an ecosystem, in that your parents might introduce you to somebody, family might introduce you, friends might introduce you, you might do online dating, you might go to dating events. There's so much more, and any of the ways are fine. And it's more about giving you as many opportunities to meet someone, to find the one, as you can. Now, a lot of people don't know that in sort of outside of the community. And my husband and I said, we've never seen a book that's written about it in that kind of nuanced way, as far as we knew. So when I'd read stories, and I did my university, for my degree, I did my dissertation on Asian women in literature, and any mention of arranged marriage kind of had a negative stance. It was either a submissive woman who didn't really have a say in the matter, or it was a really feisty, strong, independent woman who rallied against the idea. And I said to my husband, I've never really seen anything where the girl's open to being set up in various different ways because she wants to settle down. So she's doing the whole, like, going to dating events, being introduced through friends, but also through her family. And I thought, And we both discussed, because, we'd gone through various processes as everybody does, and we said it would be so funny to write it as a chick lit comedy with a bit of emotion and a bit of heart. And so you're kind of informing people, so it's not heavy. You're kind of informing people about it without even knowing you're informing people. So that was the germ of the idea. And then I remember I'd finished one job, I'd finished one PR role, and I had the luxury, which doesn't really exist these days, of having about 5 weeks between finishing that job and starting my next job. And of course, normal people will relax and go to the gym and go to the spa, and I thought, I'll write this book. So I started writing it, and I think I penned about the first 5 chapters, and then I started my new job. Life got in the way, and I left it similar to the way I left, Jane's Gang, except this wasn't completed. So then, I think, so years later, I was at a different stage. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'd had my daughter. I was at a different stage in my life, and I'd read a book, and I don't know if you've heard of it in the US. It's quite big. It's called Queenie.
Okay. Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Yes.
So Queenie had come out, and it was about a young black girl living and navigating dating in London. And again, I thought, why don't we talk about, there's not the story for kind of the British Muslim or British Bengali girl, on that scale I hadn't seen, doing the same sort of thing and really talking about her life and that process. So I picked it up, I dug it out, thank God I found it. It was in one of my emails to myself. That's so, lazy about it.
No
but
floppy
anyway,
disk.
I dug it out, and that's not a floppy disk. Things had moved on a bit since then, so it wasn't a floppy disk, but thankfully it was somewhere on the email. And then I started, and it was one of those, and I'm sure you have the same when you write, sort of sometimes something writes itself. So I had my daughter, and I had barely any hours, and I discovered iPhone Notes, which was a game changer for me, because I would be, she wasn't a great sleeper, so I'd be nursing her in the night. I'd be up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and I would just scroll down chapters and chapters, and suddenly I had a body of work. It took, I can't remember how long it took at the time. It took quite a few months, and I had a body of work, and it was a very rough draft. So then I had the story, and I thought, okay, my initial reaction was I didn't know anything about the route I have now gone down, which was self-publishing, doing it independently. I didn't know anything about that. So I had an idea that I'd send it to a couple of agents, and I went to a writing group in Manchester as well, which is where I live. And then I think I read more about how hard it is to land an agent, etc. And I got quite disillusioned about that. And then I think I happened upon a few articles online in some online newspapers about people who'd done quite well from publishing independently. And then I suddenly found all these Facebook groups like the Self-Publishing Formula and the 20 books to 50k and all that. And I suddenly, and the how we met as well, which is Chick Lit, I came upon later. So suddenly I learned about all these things and thought, actually, I can control this narrative, because one of the things I was also very conscious of, and the reason I wanted to write the book that I did, was I felt that often, there's no other way of putting this, but I think stories about women of culture and diverse stories often get told through a different lens by the time they've been edited, by the time they've been made to fit a narrative. So then what happens is they're either exoticized. So the picture will be typical. It'll be a lady with a sari on the cover, because that's what we wear every day, of course. Going to the shop and going to work, or the context will be a certain way. And I thought, that is not what I want. That is exactly not what I want. I want to write it the way I would, and the way I'd want to read it, and the way people I know would want to read it. So that was it. So I got the story together, and then once I learnt about how you can do it yourself to be on a par with traditionally published books. So I learnt about getting a cover designer, getting a developmental editor, getting it proofread, having beta readers and advanced readers. And suddenly it was this whole Pandora's box of things you can do. For sure. Options to make it on a par. And because I'm a PR person by trade, that was the blessing in disguise for me, because one of the biggest concerns for me was, and it was my hang-up, I fully admit now, just because I didn't know much about it, but my hang-up was, will people think it's not good enough because I published it myself? Will people think I did it because nobody, wanted to read it? So I thought, okay, I'm going to make, be as sure as I can that it's on a par or as close as it can be by doing all these things, so hiring all these professional resources and making sure it's up to standard. And one of the things I'm quite proud of is between sleep deprivation and getting the book out, I did in as much as I could, I did some good PR. So I got into a national magazine, Good Housekeeping, and I got into, some newspapers and some other features about the book and about being an author. And suddenly I thought, the great thing was, the beauty of it is, I was doing the things that I would have assumed would happen if I was traditionally published. Except it was very empowering, and I was doing it myself. So it was. You're doing all of it yourself. Yeah. Which is, it's a lot of legwork, but it was really satisfying.
Oh, for sure.
That was the story, and then
Well, I think too, there's been a lot of discussion the past year or two about more diversity and more voices, and you're right. There have been times I've talked to multiple author friends of mine that the story they wanted to tell was changed because, this idea of, not as many people are going to understand it. It's like, but a good story is a good story, and those good stories should be given the opportunity to be told by the people who understand it, who are through their lens. And I mean, like one example, and I know it's not exact, but if you've ever seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Nia Vardalos was a one-woman show she did for a while, and so there was a lot of people who came to see it and wanted to market it, and they wanted to buy it, and they said, but we're going to change it. We're going to make her a big Italian wedding or a big Jewish wedding because more people will understand that, is what the idea was. And she said, I don't know if it was arrogance or stupidity, but I kept saying, no, it has to be this. And so she held out, and then it turns out that Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson, who's Greek, and her whole family's Greek, she and her sisters and her mom saw the play, and they just loved it. So then she went home and told Tom, and then Tom came to see it, and then that's how they worked together and made this movie, which was huge. And
amazing,
because it was a good story. And so, like you're saying, you have seen so many examples of arranged marriages that have, like you're saying, turned out to be someone who's either no way like a, Kiss Me Kate or Taming of the Shrew type situation, or you've got someone who's just, it's the bookworm that nobody wants, right? And it's wonderful to see, and thank you for explaining it, because the arranged marriage, the word itself or the phrase is I think
it's loaded.
The problem with a lot of people, because it sounds like it's just like you would do if you were going, my friends are introduced to us, my parents know their parents, and, dating. I mean, it just sounds like a typical social situation.
There's a joke in the book, and it's, and I love this, and it's the one that people resonate with. So I say something like, Tinder and Match.com might think they're market leaders with their sophisticated algorithm helping determine the perfect partner for you. Well, us Asians have been doing it for centuries, and we didn't even need a computer. So that's, that's the summation. And what you say, Patricia, is so true about the whole having the story, because one of the big things for me was when I first got some beta readers to look at the book. One of them was a really good friend of mine who's really good and very critical, which is exactly what you need. And she said to me, who is this aimed at? Yeah, she said to me, who is this aimed at? Is it aimed at people, from your community, girls that know the story, people that are living it, for them to sort of almost reminisce and feel heard? Or is it for mainstream, people that don't know about it? And my answer was both. My answer was both. And I said, I hope it's both, but I'm not sure, because and by default, and this is just how it is, but a lot of these stories that are quite exoticized, and you can go on, Amazon, Kobo, anywhere, and they do stand out, because like I say, usually there's a lot of bright colors and the girl's wearing an Asian outfit, and it's very, like I say, it's very exoticized. And one of the things is that it's probably only read by people, it catches the intrigue of someone from that community, because it's like, oh, it's a book that I can relate to. Well, I wanted it to be a book that is funny, entertaining, and intriguing for anyone who doesn't know about it and has always had those questions, because, lots of people have questions and they don't necessarily want to ask. But equally, I wanted it to be something that also is a voice for people who go through the process. So it really warms my heart that even though, of course, I don't have exact data of demographic of who's buying it, etc., but I'm going by the reviews, and there are lots of them, where people say, I picked up this book and I was always intrigued by the process and it's been an eye-opener. And other people say it actually sounds like quite a good thing, you know, that we should have in the Western community. And I love that, and there's so much more. It is chick lit, and it is meant to be light, and it's sort of almost like you could say a beach read. It's an easy read, but within there it does tackle race, it does tackle identity, it does tackle belonging, but it does it in a way that it's not just aimed at, you know, British Bengali Muslims. It's not just aimed at Asians. And like you say, with the big fat Greek wedding, a good story is a good story, and it transcends, and that's what I love about it.
Well, and the awkwardness of dating. I mean, come on. I don't care who you are, or, you know, what religious affiliation you are, or you don't do any. I mean, dating is awkward. It's just an awkward thing. Even if it's the classic or the stereotypical, what's assumed as an arranged marriage, like you only would marry within this group. And I mean, there's plenty of Christian groups that do it too. Oh, well, you know, you've seen plenty of movies. Well, he's not Catholic, or he's not, you know, Baptist, or she's not whatever. And so you see it, but it's just an awkward thing. I mean, you're learning about a stranger that you're going to be spending quite a bit of time with, it's a weird process. So I think it's good to know.
Definitely, that's why it's a story that's as old as time, isn't it? Because you never get bored of it, because it's never the same story. It's like the same concept, finding the one, but isn't that one? You know, it's one of life's biggest mysteries and biggest challenges, isn't it? Really, you know, in that regard. So I think it's funny and relatable to anybody. And I think one of the things with the books that I've written is I just want to show that, you know, in this world that can be quite polarized, we actually share more similarities than differences once you get to the core.
Yeah, a lot. Like, what mother isn't going to tell you she wasn't exhausted with her first child or second child, or there's a child she worries about because of whatever, and you know, keeping your identity as a mother, and you talk about a lot of different things on you have a blog too, so so it's Halima Bob, so it's HALIMABOBS.com. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
HalimaBobs.com.
And I love the comment that you have on it. It says unfiltered, meaning pictures are unfiltered, the talk is unfiltered, all of it. And, you know, I love that.
I'm so glad you said that, because I just feel like in this world with, you know, Instagram, which I'm on, but I'm just not very good at it. And, you know, the people, the sort of influencers, it's all just filtered, and it just doesn't feel real. And I think through my writing, through my pictures, I just want to always say it kind of how it is. And I think there's sort of not enough of that, because we're in this society we're in. It's everything's so curated now. And so I'm so glad you like it, because sometimes I think, am I in the minority, you know, trying to do this whole unfiltered thing? So it makes me really happy when I hear that people say, I love the way it was written, because it is just how it should be. Because what were blogs before? They were meant to be, you know, normal, an outlet for normal people, and now they're turning into magazines. And what was Instagram was you put your silly photo or whatever your photo on your grainy camera, and now they're like, you know, high fashion photo shoots, and everything's just getting samey. But that's a rant for another day.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting. We have this store here called Target. Do you have Targets there? No?
We don't have Target, but I've heard of it.
Okay. So it's got clothes, and some of them are the super Targets, and they have food. But this one has, it has both. And I was walking around, because we tend to go there far more often than we should. I was looking at, my girls were getting some clothes, and I look over at the picture, and it's in Texas, we have beach wear out like in February, because other than this crazy freeze we had in February, it's warm, and so people are swimming almost year round. And so we have swimsuits almost year-round. And I look over, and there's an ad, and this lovely woman in this ad, and I look, and it's like she has stretch marks. And I was like, whoa, what happened? And it's not that I was like, oh, that's terrible. I thought, oh, my gosh, this is fabulous. She is imperfect, which everybody is. So I'm looking at her. She's not your classic, like, super thin supermodel type. She looks very healthy, very normal. I hate to use the word normal, but, you know, she looks fine. And I was like, wow. And so I started looking through the ads on the website, and sure enough, they're really not photoshopping much. So I said, okay. So then I went into Torrid, which is for women sizes 10 to 30, and looking through that, and they're not photoshopping much. And I thought, okay, well, let me look some more. And I looked at Victoria's Secret, and I'm like, okay. I was showing my daughter the comparisons, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, she's got stretch marks, and so I don't know what's going on.
Something's happening.
There is something's happening that, you know, granted, everybody wants the fantasy, but I think what maybe advertisers are realizing is people, like you're saying, are being smothered by it, and it's like, I can't do this. You know, it's not real.
I'm hoping there's a shift.
Yeah,
yeah. And it's quite
again, we all want the glamour.
Sure, we love a dress-up, but it's also scary, isn't it, to think we've been so conditioned that it caught your attention because somebody was in a picture looking normal. And that shows how much we are bombarded with, you know, highly sort of photoshopped, highly edited imagery that, you know, a regular person stands out and scary. But, yeah, hopefully that is the right way we're moving.
Right. Well, I know when HD first started coming out, there was this big discussion in Hollywood about, you know, the actors were really worried about it because, I mean, you know, if you're watching an award show, it's going to show it's going to show everything. And it just got to the point where people just got used to that really crisp picture. And then I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's people that still hate it, but I mean, I like being able to see everything in detail, just like if I were standing in front of it. So it's very interesting. And so when you have stories like yours that your voices and your experiences, I think it's incredibly important. And I'm so glad you took the step to say, you know what, I'll do my own. I'll get my own book out there. But you still, like, you made a big point. You put a quality product out there, and I think that's what a lot of people get through people aren't going to think it's very good, right, because I did it myself. But really, you did an amazing amount of work to make sure that product that you put out there was really, really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I did want it to be on a par, and like I say, because I thought, well, if I have this slight, you know, monkey on my shoulder saying, is it not good enough if that's why you're going down that route, I can't blame I can't blame a reader for holding those same, you know, views. So I thought, well, I owe it to the reader then. If they're going to spend, you know, $2.99, $3.99 on my ebook, I want them, or you know, a little more on the paperback. I want them to feel like they've had a great read. I want them to feel like they've enjoyed it like they would any other book. So, and I think, you know, that's what I guess we all aim to do, just to make sure that it is up there. And I was really glad actually because just recently in April it won the this is a UK based, but there's the Book Brunch Selfies. I think they have a US version as well. It won the Best Adult Fiction, my debut novel.
Yes.
And it was based on the marketing campaign. That was one of the big the benchmarks they used, and it was the fact that I did sort of PR around it. And you know, that's one of the things that is really important, I believe, going on, you know, like your show, for example, getting coverage and speaking to people. I think sometimes in the self-publishing world there can be an emphasis on advertising, which I 100% get why. That is where you can verify your sales through Facebook ads, AMS ads. However, there is so much to be said about bubbling along in the background of building your brand. Yes, you can't necessarily quantify sales to it, but I think it goes a long way. And again, this is what our traditionally published contemporaries do. They do that. Yeah. When they do that very well. And that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that, you know, it can level up. And hopefully it has. So, you know, the audience, they're always the best judge, aren't they, the readers?
Yes. Well, and two, there is something to be said. I've noticed a lot of authors don't want to talk about their book. They don't want to go on, camera, and to be on a podcast even is really intimidating because you basically have to talk about yourself for however long the podcast is. And a lot of people just don't either know how to do that or don't want to do that. But you're selling a book, and so for readers to hear your voice, and it's like all the layers of the senses, right? So, we've read your book, and I've touched the book or the Kindle, and I've, absorbed it. But now I get to hear your voice and understand why you wrote what you wrote, and that just kind of connects even more. And so it's one of those things I think that a lot of authors miss out on is they think, well, what would a podcast do? It's like, well, you're going to be reaching a different demographic and a different audience. So, yeah, I'm so glad you're here because that's a huge point. Yeah.
I'm
it's a big
so
deal.
glad you had me, and thank you. No, I'm so glad you had me because it's such an amazing podcast. So I'm humbled to have had the opportunity, for sure.
Well, it's been fun that you reached out. I was like, oh, my gosh, who is this? And then I saw your books and was like, absolutely. I just anybody who wants to come on and talk about their books, I'm all for it because, like you said, as people and especially as authors, we have a lot more in common than we think, no matter which genre we write, because of writing's isolating. You really do need people that get why you're doing it.
Yeah, so you can be in your kind of, you can almost go into your own little shell, I guess, on bubble when you're writing because it's quite an intense process. And it is, especially, I don't know if you've found during the pandemic, there's even less of the networking isn't out there anymore. The events and the kind of writers groups, or even, for a while, I imagine it was the same in the States as well, but for a while for us, even going to that coffee shop that you might have had your little cozy corner, that was gone. So it definitely, this kind of things, doing this, it reminds you that, actually, yes, there's a world out there, and people are reading, and they're reading my books, and they're reading other books, and it's definitely a good reminder to step away from, the keyboard, or in my case, the iPhone notes, or now iPhone dictate, which is my new thing, but that's another bit of thing that's worked for me, and actually, talking to people, and as you've guessed, I do like talking. You've probably gathered by now.
Well, you've done a beautiful job. I've loved it. So you're working on book 3. We have about 2 minutes left, but when do you anticipate book 3 will be out?
So I think I'm drafting as we speak, so I think it's going to be either end of this year, early next year, and I'm toying with, and any advice on this would be good, I'm toying with maybe doing a pre-order because so many people have said, I can't wait for the next one. Is there a next one? That I've left that in reviews. So I'm wondering whether to actually sort of satisfy that need now. And beyond that, I'm actually in the process of getting my audiobooks done for both The Secret Diary of an Arranged Marriage. Yeah, I can't wait to get them out into the world. So The Secret Diary of an Arranged Marriage and The Secret Diary of a Bengali Bridezilla. And beyond that, away from the series, I'm actually cooking up some non-fiction. So because I'm a PR girl, I'm a PR person, and it helped me a huge amount. I'm in the process of very early stages of getting a PR book together, basically to help people get publicity that they wouldn't afford through advertising, which I include myself in that bracket. In the hope that it helps people, whether it's authors, influencers, bloggers, small businesses, because I do feel that there's a gap where they miss out because they A, don't know the value of it, or B, they do know the value and they think they'll never get a chance to do it. So that's me. In between that, I would like to sleep, hopefully, if my kids play ball.
Yeah. Oh, it would be great. I was going to say I think you should absolutely teach how to market as an author, because it definitely, you've got such a unique perspective, and to you it's like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody know this? It's like they really don't. And especially as an author. And then you've got the different kinds of authors, and how would you market, and to whom would you market? And there's a technique, but you know that, and you've got an incredible amount of information there. So, yeah, but if you ever need any help with any of that, I'm glad to brainstorm it with you, because sometimes those babies can really drain the brainstorming ability, huh?
They really, really can. I was going to say in between that I'd probably try and catch some sleep between this this rough schedule I've got. But no, thank you, Patricia. That would be really appreciated, actually, because I'm actually, the one thing I guess I haven't done as much yet is network enough, just because I'm in this bubble. I gave birth during the pandemic. I published my book during the pandemic. So, that's my next thing, I guess, just getting to know, amazing authors like yourself and getting out there into the world that way.
Oh, yeah, I would love it. So do me a favor. Let's stay in touch. And then please, when your book 3 is about to come out, let's talk. So you come back and talk to us some more. And then absolutely stay accountable to each other. So we'll see if the other one pulls out their old, terrible manuscripts that we're afraid for anyone to read, maybe even ourselves.
Mine might be the next great British novel, and yours might be the next great American novel. So you never know. Let's see what happens.
Let's do it. Goals for
amazing.
Yes, let's do it. I love it. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So for everyone who's listening, I have been talking to Halima Khatun. She has her website, halimabobs.com. She also you can find her at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Her first book, The Secret of an Arranged Marriage, and now her book, The Secret of a Bengali Bridezilla, both out now. She's working on book 3. You can get those books at Amazon and Kobo. I've got links into the write-up of the show, as well as all her social media. And give her a shout, and let her get some sleep, though, because she's got a lot going on. And this has been Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio. Keep on reading, everybody.
This show brought to you by Circle of 7 Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.